It's the holiday season where there's a spirit of giving, and in my little corner of the internet, I always try this time of year to make a lot more videos for you guys, because the holidays can be a very difficult time for people that have lost their entire support structure. Being kicked out of your friend group and your family sometimes can be a very isolating experience. And on our cozy little corner of the internet, hopefully there is at least a tiny bit of solace that helps you get through the day. So I try and do my best to have more uploads in the month of December. Now, what would be very strange and awkward of me would be to say this and then upload, let's just say, 2 or 3 videos for the entire month, and then try and gaslight you into thinking that this is actually more than I've done in the years past. No. Your cuppeth runneth over, people. You need to trust in me. Believe me, this is actually more video content than you've ever received ever. Yeah, no one would be crazy enough to try and gaslight someone like that, would they?
So I think we can all agree. We have so much food that we're getting, we are full. We're not talking the physical belly, we're talking the spiritual belly here. We appreciate the governing body blessing us with all this food.
My brother in Vishnu. I've already debunked this. We don't need to keep rehashing the same thing. But as long as you guys are gonna keep trying to gaslight people, I'm gonna keep making fun of you. So let's talk about it. So this is a morning worship video that was uploaded a couple of days ago talking about dining at Jehovah's spiritual table, and it actually covers a lot of the points that I was going to maybe make separate videos about, so it's a perfect platform to discuss some of those. So let's not waste too much time here with the intro and get right into it.
You are what you eat. We all know that familiar saying. It refers to things that we may choose to eat. Well, it could be junk food or it could be healthy food. Our choices can impact us physically as well as spiritually. So if you are what you eat, you are what you see and what you hear. And that's especially true when it comes to entertainment. We're reminded that each day we have a choice to make when we wake up. Will we partake of the table of Jehovah or the table of demons? We're free to choose, but our choices have consequences. They can draw us closer to Jehovah or could distance us. Most today choose the table of the demons, and the consequences are plain to see. Their actions reflect what's on the menu of the table of demons, and that is the works of the flesh, listed at Galatians chapter 5. In contrast, we who are tied in, and millions around the world, have chosen to eat at the table of Jehovah. And the actions and the consequences are evident as well. What's on Jehovah's menu? Well, it's the fruitage of the Spirit. It's very evident.
Now, this is one of the more frustrating aspects of growing up as a Jehovah's Witness. This is one of the hardest things to even shake off mentally. And that is this way of looking at the world where you see it as an action movie. There are heroes and there are villains. There are good guys and there are bad guys. There is Satan, there is the demons. There's life and there is death. And it is this ones and zeros binary way of thinking that inhibits you from seeing the world how it actually functions. That it's this chaotic miasma of gray area, and you have to navigate through that chaos. But no, they want to oversimplify everything. So part of the reason that the Jehovah's Witnesses insist on keeping themselves in this mental state is because it's comfy. It is super comfortable when you know that you are on the right side of something. If you know that you are making the correct moral choice, if you are making the right decision for your family, if you are making the right decision for your future, that confidence, be it real or not, is extremely comforting. And that is, I truly believe, what keeps a lot of people in the religion, despite any doubts, despite anything that they might be concerned with regard to the direction of the organization. That comfort keeps them there. And it's very important, if you want to grow out of this mindset, it's a trope at this point, but get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That is where you are going to start having a snowball effect of living a more productive life. Once you start getting comfortable with the reality that, hey, things aren't always defined by, well, what side of the line are you on? Sometimes you have to weave in and out and around a little bit, and that is okay. The world, morality, the universe doesn't require you to be right about every single little thing. And if you're trying to be right about every single little thing without considering the possibility that maybe the other side or someone that thinks differently than you could be right about something, you are going to end up in this stubborn, abysmal existence that Jehovah's Witnesses find themselves in. So that's, at least in my uneducated opinion, what the psychology of always reinforcing this idea. They just want to draw a line in the sand and say, hey, as long as you are on this side, you're with God. He will bless you. You'll have life. You want to go on this side, and it's depravity. It's disgusting. It's filth. And ultimately, it's death. So what will it be? Cake or death?
We love eating from Jehovah's table. It's delicious and it's nutritious. We all can attest to that. It's interesting that a sister sent a letter of appreciation to the governing body about spiritual food. This is what she said. Thank you for spoiling us with such a banquet of rich dishes that is constantly set before us. As we indulge in such feasting, we can say that our spiritual bellies are bulging, because you have wholeheartedly fulfilled your commission to feed Jehovah's sheep. So I think we can all agree. We have so much food that we're getting, we are full. We're not talking the physical belly, we're talking the spiritual belly here. We appreciate the governing body blessing us with all this food.
Now, it's interesting that he opens up with something I think a lot of people will agree with, that we are what we consume. There's a lot of nuance to this, but I genuinely think that this is kind of true. If you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is grab your phone and start scrolling through social media, you are giving your brain way too much dopamine for way too little effort. And that sets you up for failure, because everything else that you do throughout the day is now going to seem very hard. It is more difficult to get dopamine from other things in your day, and it's very easy to get dopamine from scrolling through TikTok. So now you're wiring your brain to say, no, I prefer to get easy dopamine and not have to work for anything. And it makes your day harder. But hey, that's just me. Now, what this imbecilic bootlicker decides to do with this, hey, let's establish some common ground about something we can agree with, is turn into the most obsequious person in the room. Someone get this man some icy hot, because his hands must be so sore from jerking the governing body so hard with this. Listen to this is the language that he's using. Oh, this delicious, nutritious. They're spoiling us. It's a banquet. It's rich. We're indulging. It's feasting. Our stomachs are bulging. Brother. Okay, we'll get into why that's all wrong. But then he hits you with the most annoying thing that Jehovah's Witnesses do in their talks. We can all agree.
So I think we can all agree. We have so much food that we're getting, we are full. We're not talking the physical belly, we're talking the spiritual belly here. We appreciate the governing body blessing us with all this food.
He uses all of this flowery language and then says, and we can all agree that this is the case, can't we? No, we can't there, Ron. And let me tell you why. Because I did this experiment to definitively prove your claims that you're making right now are objectively false. Jehovah's Witnesses do not get more spiritual food now than they did 20 years ago. End of story. It's not a question at this point. I sat down and I read every single Watchtower and Awake from 1995, and then I did it again for 2024. And it took me about 10 or 15 hours, or I think it was 15 hours to read from 2024, and it took me over 100 to read from 1995. Now, if you're sitting there saying, well, Wally, what about all the videos they produce? Doing it how I did it was the most fair way to put this juxtaposition in place. Because if you want to say, okay, well, what about their videos? Then you also have to include the videos and the audio productions and the other books that they were writing back then. It doesn't help the modern day Jehovah's Witnesses in the category of how much spiritual food you're getting if you include the videos, because then you also need to include those things plus the books and everything from back then, and that makes the situation worse. So this is the most generous way that we can look at it, and it's still a fact that they are receiving a tenth, roughly, a tenth of what they did. That is beyond comprehension. How we are bulging, we are feasting, we're really indulging. Like he's got greasy chicken coming down his chin here. What are you talking about? This is the ultimate scam. Imagine the backlash. Or not imagine, remember the backlash that Chipotle got. Oh man, the internet was setting them afire because they had reduced their portions. They were giving people less meat. Millions of people uploading TikToks trying to prove how Chipotle gives people less meat in a burrito bowl than they did. And then the comparison, oh, well, do you get more or less if you go in the store versus you order it on DoorDash? We already lived through this once before. If you're an old fart like me, remember when you used to go and get a quart of ice cream? It cost you $3 or $4 and you got a boom, there's it. And then all of a sudden you blinked twice and what used to be the standard sized ice cream was now in a tiny little container about what a Ben & Jerry's or a Haagen-Dazs used to be. And the Ben & Jerry's and Haagen-Dazs, that looks like what their mini little cups used to be for the exact same price. And everyone's like, what happened? We are not getting the same value that we did before. You have cut the portions in half, but it's worse for them because they're trying to sell a tenth, a peanut. Oh man, you used to get 2,000 calories a week by being a Jehovah's Witness with all of this rich spiritual food. But instead of getting potatoes and bacon and eggs and oatmeal on a plate, you get a teaspoon of cashews. And they want you to be thankful. We can all agree to be thankful, to be grateful. This gaslighting is obnoxious about something that, again, it's objectively false.
Now, because of the pandemic, of course, we're at home now more than ever, and perhaps we're alone at times, which brings up many challenges and temptations about choosing the right kind of entertainment that will draw us closer to Jehovah. Now, Satan knows we're alone. He knows that sometimes we're lonely, so he may feel we're more vulnerable or open to temptation to partake of the table of demons. Just a nibble, just a snack, will it really hurt? You might remember this Watchtower quote. It says, Satan does not mind if part of our heart is loving what is right, as long as part of it loves what is bad, what he promotes. He wants you to eat at both tables, knowing that it could distance you from Jehovah. So is it possible to eat at both tables? What's the harm?
But how would you know something was from the quote-unquote table of demons? How would you know that something is from Satan and that what the governing body tells you is indeed from God? If you never, under any circumstances, review any type of evidence from the other side. They're saying you can't test You can't take a little bit of a nibble of what the governing body tells you not to. You can't think for yourself even in the tiniest little bit, because that's all Satan needs to do to corrupt you. This is a really pernicious thing that the governing body beats into people's minds, and it disproportionately affects children because kids are kind of dumb and they're very gullible and will believe anything. And if you say something loud enough and there's enough adults around them in their community tooting the same horn, they're going to start tooting that exact same horn as well. It's like the listen, obey, and be blessed song. Everyone around them saying listen, obey, and be blessed. Well, I guess I'll just join in. Listen, obey, and be blessed, right? The problem with this type of thinking is, and it's something I've experienced myself, is you think and you are convinced that you have done objective research. Whenever you're challenged about your beliefs by anyone, you will tell people that, oh no, I have done objective research. I have looked into other religions. I have verified with historic evidence that my faith is true. But the thing is you haven't. At least I hadn't. And when I did, things didn't quite check out the way that I thought. It wasn't as simple as I initially thought when I was a Jehovah's Witness. So the hard thing is that people will think about this in a very reductive way. I think the most common way that people will think about this is, well, you don't have to experiment with anything to make sure it's bad for you. What about heroin? Are you going to just try a little bit of heroin to make sure it's bad for you? Which is such a stupid, foolish, intellectually dishonest argument to make, because you don't have to try heroin to know that it's bad for you, because there is a mountain of evidence for you to understand exactly why it is bad for you. Shooting up black tar heroin is not good, and you have evidence, you have science, you have experiences that you can look at. Now imagine if you're trying to compare apples to apples here, you have to say, well, no, you cannot look at any scientific research. You cannot look at any tests that have ever been done. You can't look at any anecdotes that people will say about their personal experiences. You can look at nothing. Well, in that very specific situation, could you definitively say that heroin was bad? Well, you'd have to go out there. Do you have to try it? No, but you have to go and do some research. And that is the issue with the Jehovah's Witness mindset, is because they will not and are not allowed to talk to, interact with an apostate. Anyone that disagrees with their beliefs, they have to be reported to the elders and cut off. They have to be shunned. You cannot do any extracurricular thinking. You cannot go beyond what the Watchtower gives you. And that is the real issue here. So when he's going on about this, we have to be grateful to the governing body and just jerking him off so hard his hands are going to have arthritis before he knows it. I get so passionate about it because I know that this is the thinking that actually keeps people in this dangerous religion. And I just have to speak out against it.
So that they may dwell with me. The one walking in blamelessness or integrity will minister to me. So blocking out what is bad, but allowing the good in. 7, no deceitful person will dwell in my house, and no liar will stand in my presence or in front of my eyes. Every morning, I will silence, change the station, exit the website, turn it off, all the wicked of the earth, to cut off all wrongdoers from the city of Jehovah. So again, David, as well as us and all loyal ones, have a choice every day what we will eat, where we will eat, who we will eat with. Our choices have consequences, both physically and spiritually. They can draw us closer to Jehovah, or they could distance us. A recent Watchtower encouraged us to ask ourselves, will my choice of entertainment make it seem that I'm hypocritical? If my Bible students or return visits saw the entertainment I choose, would they think that I practice what I preach? We will make wise choices if we apply the counsel in Romans chapter 12 and verse 9 to always let our love for God be without hypocrisy. So remember, you are what you eat. So continue to eat and partake exclusively of Jehovah's table so we can give him exclusive devotion and do all things for God's glory.
Now, I know about 37% of you probably just turned off the video because that is a long clip of a Jehovah's Witness speaker to watch. But I did think it's important to hear his final thoughts about this. Of course, I cut out most of this talk just because he's going and talking about this old Watchtower, blah, blah, blah. Stuff I've already talked about, so we don't need to rehash it. But man, when you want to just dive into the Jehovah's Witness mind, and you hear him wrap this up with saying, exclusively eat from Jehovah's table. After talking about everything else, entertainment, news stations, what you're reading, who you're hanging out with, cutting everything off, turning it off, walking away, turning your back on everything that is not approved by the governing body or produced by the governing body. This is an insular community. This is when they try and argue in court that they don't try and shelter their children off from the rest of society, that they're not an insular community. Oh no, they're just part of the regular old community. You can't really make that argument in good faith when you have examples, real examples of what they teach their followers, and that is exclusivity. You have to exclusively worship Jehovah. How do you worship Jehovah? By what the governing body says. You have to exclusively eat at the table of Jehovah. What's the table of Jehovah? Whatever the governing body says. There you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't really need to say much more. So anyway, if you're still around, thank you so much for sticking around this long. And hey, don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be trying to upload, I think my goal is like 15 videos in December. So hopefully we can make that goal every other day thereabouts. So yeah, I better stop talking now because this outro is terrible. So stay safe, be kind, and don't forget to show yourself the same kindness that you show to others. And you better have a good-ass day.